I work in the School of Business here. My position is that of an associate dean, and I'm responsible for the international projects and relations at the School of Business here. And tonight, what I'd like to do is just say a few words about the China study tour for you guys for 2017. And I see that Cam, one of our previous participants, is actually sitting there today. My focus and my purpose for this course is slightly different than the European course. The European trip has a focus on family business, whereas this course is focused more on doing business in China in general. So the purpose is not about family business, it's about how to work with China. Now, the reason why China is important for Alberta and for Albertan students is because of the fact that China is the number 2 trade partner of Canada, and is number 1 trade partner for Korea, Japan, India, Chile, Peru, the list goes on. It is one of the most significant countries in the world today. And you and I have been talking, probably been listening to people debate about the desirability of the TPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership. Okay? The reason why that is a significant move is because it is an agreement that was used by Barack Obama to effectively implement his pivot to Asia, because it is supposed to set up the rules of trade in Asia prior to China's establishing its own free trade area leadership. Okay. China today has had to help establish something called the Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank, BRICS Bank, etc. So it has slowly asserted itself. But at the same time, despite the importance of China, okay, in Canada, we have an issue with China. Okay. Australia concluded a free trade agreement with China 3 years ago. Now we're talking about maybe 2025, we had an agreement with them. Well, what does that mean? Well, because Canadians are not familiar with China. The cultural distance is too great. Also, there's something called state capitalism. How does it work? Now, when I take my students to China, whether it's the EMBAs or MBA, they come back and say, that's not the China that we expected to see. In fact, we go there, we come back, and we often hear people say that they're the capitalists, we're the socialists. So, and in fact, I agree with that in terms of the economy. So, as an MBA student in international business, a lot of you might not be in international business. To me, it would be a crime to graduate with an IB and not know how China works. To me, you need to know that if you're going to be involved in international trade and international business. So that's how the court is set up. Okay, we're going to learn how they do things. The rise of China, I'm going to go through some of these slides fairly quickly. It has become the largest Asia trade partner and investor for Canada, and also it is presently having a lot of behind-the-scene influence on the TPP and also something called ASEAN Plus 6. We'll quickly talk about that later on because there's a trade agreement waiting in the wing. If TPP doesn't go, ASEAN Plus 6 might take its place. ASEAN Plus 6 is ASEAN countries plus India, Australia, New Zealand, China, Korea, and Japan. And that's a different trade area. And so this is something that China is very much interested in. And if TPP is not going to be ratified because if you listen to what Trump and Hillary Clinton are talking about in terms of foreign trade, people are not optimistic. And if that's the case, ASEAN Plus 6 could become the reality. And the reason why we go to China, this is one of those graphs that indicate to you the impact of China on the growth in world GDP. Okay, this is the contribution that China has made to the growth in GDP around the world. And it doesn't work so well here. Okay. And China is also important because it's a case study in state-owned enterprises. How do they work? Okay. Do state-owned enterprises work or don't they? Now, in the resource sector, unfortunately, whether we think they work or not, state-owned enterprises predominate. And in a lot of the highly industrialized products, China, France, the United Kingdom, they all have state-owned enterprises operating in those areas. I think we do too. EPCOR is a SOE. So 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 these are companies that are around the world. So how do we work with them? You probably would not generally learn about how state-owned enterprises work, but this course is supposed to give you some information on that. And I don't think this is working out well. And I'm going to skip over some of these slides because of time constraint. And this is a slide that gives you an idea as to how Canadians view our relationship with China. The percentage of people who think that we should get closer to China has been on the decline in the last number of years. So, what does that mean? And so the purpose for our trip is to give you a first-hand learning experience of China's business and cultural practices. Okay. Are there differences in cultural practices? I've been actually acting as a consultant vis-a-vis China for about 20 years now. And yesterday I had a conversation with some of my associates. They went to Beijing with a 7-page long of investment in Alberta that is seeking money. The response from China is they're too Canadian. That's not how we do business. So those are a lot of things that sometimes we don't pay attention to, and we're gonna learn a little bit about how they might see things, and how to maybe increase our effectiveness in working with them, to create a keener sense of globalization. Whatever we learn about China, and I think whatever you will learn from your other international trips, are good in the sense that you'll be developing general awareness, soft skills. That whether you go to Thailand or Korea or not, it helps you. It's just that awareness to know that when you're doing international business, things like regulation, culture, logistics, they all matter. And they're all different across different countries. Okay. A couple of weeks ago, I was talking to someone in New Delhi, and he said, Eddie, the product did not get released by customs. I said, why? He said, well, because the product was not found on your company's website. Now, got held up for a week. So a lot of things like that. When people talk about bureaucratic processes in India, in China, those are the actual examples. You need to be prepared for those. And the format of this course is that we're going to have 4 weekends of lectures. So we're going to have classes here to talk about China, to give you an idea as to the economic background, the structure of China, the SOEs, what's happening in China, for example, the economic policy that China has implemented, for example, One Belt, One Road, the economic policy that they have into Central Asia. What are they doing in Africa? Okay. And the going out policy. Where are they investing their money? Okay. Why is it that they're not investing in Canada anymore? Because the day that Trudeau went to China, in Hangzhou, there was a press article in China released saying that it doesn't matter what happens in the next 4 years, Canada can grow. We're not going to buy any more from Canada. The structure is just not there. So what does that mean? Okay, those are the kinds of things that we need to look at. And class discussion would be part of it, and a research paper. You would have to do a research paper for me before you go. So most of the coursework will be done prior to the departure of the group. And once we're in China, you would form different groups, and you'll be given responsibility for doing a little bit of research on the company that we're visiting, asking questions. Okay? So we make sure that we don't show up and not have good questions for our host. And in fact, last year, some of our students were given responsibility to do a couple of presentations for our Chinese host. One of the companies that we visited, they produce auto parts for Magna International in Ontario. And the question they had was, can your student do a marketing presentation for us to teach us how to enter the Chinese market? So it was fun for us. So we did a project for them, did a presentation when we visited them. And that happens every now and then. But also we would use the visit to learn a little bit about what's happening in China. It's open to all current MBA students. And before we look at the pictures, I'm going to give you some ideas to the company that we visited before.
Just use the down arrow key on the keyboard.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. Some of the company we visited. You have the foreign invested company, Royal Bank of Canada, Bank of Montreal, Johnson & Johnson, GE Healthcare, Touch Media, Giordano Fashion, Esprit. Those are some of the examples. Now, every year is going to be different because in China, they don't have a culture of giving company visits to students. Okay? And so often they would do, some company would receive us 1 year and next year they won't. So we have to find companies every year. And Chinese companies themselves, we would have a Bao Steel, Wahaha Beverage, CNPC, ZTE, and last year we visited Tencent. I don't know if you guys know what Tencent is about. It is the company that gave us Weibo, WeChat. That's the China's Google. And we went to Lenovo as well. So some of those are not put on there. But we try to have a mixture of foreign companies and Chinese companies, so we can contrast the culture. How do Chinese companies work? How do foreign companies work? And they tell you different things. Okay? I think what is interesting is that the perspective of a Chinese company is very different than the perspective of a foreign company. Okay? 1 year we go to a foreign company, they say we don't pay any commission, we don't do any kickbacks. And then I go to a Chinese company and say, well, we have to have good relationships. And a lot of that is basically Business 101, the golden rule. Who has the gold makes the rule. Are you buying from them or are you selling from them? I mean, so there are a lot of things that this course will give you some exposure to. That's the actual practical aspect of doing business. Okay? How do they work? And we would only go to 3 cities in China: Beijing, Xi'an, and Shanghai. And in Shanghai, we also go to a nearby spot called Zhouzhuang. Beijing is the political capital of China. It is also the investment banking center of China. Shanghai is the stock market. It's the area that people invest, that make a financial investment. But if you're looking at investment banking, it's Beijing, it's not Shanghai. Xi'an is the cultural capital. That's where the terracotta soldiers are. So we're going to go to those 3 places. And the tentative date is May 1 to 13, 2017. And if it was to change, it would be only by 1 day or so. And I just have some pictures from previous years for you. You know what? I think I have don't know if I have time for that, Jane. I do.
Take up the one on the right side.
On the right side? Okay, thanks.
You might have left it in the bottom corner, like it already in the PowerPoint tab.
Yeah. The copying, okay.
Bottom left? Yeah. There you go.
Not yet. I don't want to mess up your PowerPoint here. No, that's such a...
But if you go into it, Eddie, and there might be a prompt window or something.
Where...
It's already open.
Mm-hmm. It's all. I don't think it's open here down here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's neither one of these.
But if you now.
No. Is that the? Let me use it.
Well, it says it's all check. It's just I'm thinking.
Opening. Yeah, just taking forever.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
No, that's.
Is there a lot of pictures on it?
Big Five?
There's quite a few pictures, yeah. But it shouldn't take this long, though. It doesn't even open. You know what? I'm going to use another stick here.
Why don't you shut the whole PowerPoint? We can
Shut the whole PowerPoint?
We can get
Okay.
that one open again. Just shut her down.
Okay, just shut it down.
Hit the escape key.
Close all windows.
It's not happening, Jane. It froze. You can force quit? Force quit? Is that mine? Okay. It's on this side. How can I open it on this side, though? I got it. Thank you. Yeah? No?
Yeah, just press this button.
Split space, yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Can you give me a hand here again? The mouse doesn't come over here.
Do you just want it to go to a specific slide?
Yeah, it's just, it's still good pictures, yeah. That's good, yeah, and we'll just go. Yeah, good, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so it's just some pictures from last May for you to look at, and I'll explain to you sort of what we do as we go on. And obviously, when you go to China, the Great Wall of Beijing is sort of a must. The last year when we went there, it was raining, and so, but it was actually good in the sense that there was nobody there. And we all often go to the less visited section, so it doesn't look as grand as the one that you often see, because that one is always busy. You see a Great Wall that go all the way up to the mountain. We don't go to that one simply because it's too crowded. This is where we go. And Tiananmen Square in China, the Forbidden City. Inside the Forbidden City, the Summer Palace. And then do a bit of pro shopping. Go to the art district, acrobat show. And in Beijing, what we normally do is, because of the fact that it's the first stop for us, we take a little bit more time to get over the jet lag. So the first couple of days, we basically do nothing but sightseeing. The third day, we do our company visit. And the third day, company visit, and then after that, we would take a train to Xi'an. We take the boat train to Xi'an. And this is the train we would take. And this is Xi'an. Xi'an is probably the only city in China has preserved its entire city wall from the old city. So if you go around, last year I made a mistake of riding the bike around the city wall with some of the students. It took us an hour and a half to go around that. It was just, I don't know if you did that, Cam. I thought it might be half an hour, but it was just big. So this is the city wall, and then this is the Muslim quarter. This is where the Muslim community in Xi'an lives.
And the night market.
And the night market, everything's there.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And this is where some of our students there, and this is where we had our dumpling banquet. Xi'an is famous for that, so we get 14, 16 different kinds of dumplings. But actually, they have on their menu 120 some varieties, but we only have money for 12. So the terracotta soldiers, we see that. So the one at Heritage, like this is when people are riding the bike. It's at the temple on top of that. This is the bell tower. It's right next to the hotel. This year we're going to have a hotel right next to the bell tower, so it makes our visiting a lot easier. And in Xi'an, we also do a company visit. And in Xi'an, usually we go to go see a Chinese company, a local company. And also Xi'an is what they call a second-tier city. China basically classify themselves into first-tier cities, second-tier, and third-tier. First tiers are Shanghai, Guangzhou, Beijing, the big ones. Second tier are the ones that are not quite developed, like Xi'an. But you can tell even for a second tier city, it's fairly big. And then we end up in Shanghai. Okay, Shanghai is sort of China's face to the world. They do a very good job in terms of the infrastructure and transportation facilities. This is the financial district in China, and this, the three buildings behind you are the tallest buildings in China and in East Asia. So this is the Nanjing Road shopping street. At night, we go to Yue Garden. It's also a tourist trap. You go there for food and some shopping. At night, we go to the Bund. This is the area where the British had their headquarters in Shanghai. For some of you who know, the British basically ran Shanghai for a long time. And this is the area where the different foreign countries have their concessions or their little colonies in China. You have the British section, and then the French section, the German section. They all have their own architectural features reminiscent of the colonial area. And you can tell, that's why some of the students have said they didn't expect Shanghai or Beijing, China to be like this. Because it's a very modern society. And some of the best bars that they have visited are in Shanghai. And usually at night we have a karaoke session as well. Okay, yeah. And then before you come home, there's one day, Zhouzhuang. Zhouzhuang, it's called the Venice of the East. That's where the people actually still live there. So we go there and we visit, and spend a day, half a day there, and then company visits. These are some of the pictures from before. The embassy, and also this was ZTE. ZTE is basically the largest manufacturer of IT equipment in China. Embassy, there was a fashion house. They actually go all the way from, no, we won't be visiting that in Shanghai, but this company basically, they go all the way from manufacturing to distribution. And this is a local company that manufactured the electrical motors for the speed trains in China. We visited them in Xi'an, and this was a company that gave us a lecture on China's technology on heavy equipment. So this is where we stay in Shanghai. In Beijing and Xi'an, we stay at hotels, but in Shanghai, we stay at the Shanghai Party School. This is, yeah, literally, this is where the Communist Party of China do their teaching. So basically, yeah, it's, but they're actually very nice. This is sort of breakfast. But yeah, I guess this is an attempt at Chinese and Western breakfast. You find that the food is okay. Like the food in Beijing is usually pretty good. It's a Western breakfast buffet. Xi'an is Western breakfast, but not as good. And this is a combination of Chinese and Western. And you find that this is actually an interesting venue for us. It is a very significant institution in Shanghai. When Stelmach went to visit Shanghai, his office asked us to arrange a visit for him to visit this school, because this is where the Shanghai government trains their officials, the Shanghai Party School, and we stay there, because we are a partner with them. And so we do have a mixture of local exposure for you, as well as some of the dealing with foreigners, because we talked to a couple of foreign companies last year, like Royal Bank of Canada, and then we went and we talked to the Bank of China, and the contrast was significant. The mentality right away. My student told me, he said, "Well, now we understand why we cannot do business in China. Just the way we think, it's just very different." And so those are things that are important, because the Alberta government has been talking about doing business in China for 15 years. The result is basically, to be determined. So there are a lot of issues have to be looked at, and so this is what that course is supposed to do. Okay, so it has some fun thing in there, but for me, I take it pretty seriously, in the sense that it is a course that actually addresses a very specific question, for us, it's just dealing with China. All right. Any questions?
When you say it's 4 weekend lectures, is it both Saturday and Sunday, or is it just a string of Saturdays?
No, string is that. 4 different Saturdays over 3 months.
Okay.
Over 3 months. And it's 9 o'clock till 3:30, 3, something like that. Yeah, 4 weekends. Yeah.
When do you know what companies you're going to visit?
March. Yeah, I think that is one thing about learning doing business internationally in China. I used to work for Walt Frazier, the last president. Well, I was his China advisor for 6 years. We would give him a schedule 3 months ahead because they wanted. For example, I'm arranging a meeting for President David Turpin to go to India in December.